All righty, great to be here. How you guys doing? Great. Got Wofford here this week. Want to first of all thank our fans again for the noon kick there last week was awesome. Great environment, and our players certainly appreciate it. And there's no doubt made a huge difference in the ball game, and it certainly energizes our guys. But a lot of respect for Coach Ayers and the Wofford program. He's been there since 1988. I was a junior in high school when he took over the Wofford program. They're 9-1 this year. They won the Southern Conference. They're a well-coached team that we will play in my time here at South Carolina. They do an outstanding job offensively. They're a very difficult preparation. Obviously, there's some option factors involved in it, but they're very multiple in what they do from under center and in the shotgun. And they do a really nice job of spreading the field and making you defend the entire field. They got 6 seniors on offense, and they're very experienced with the group they got. Starts with the quarterback position, and Goodson and Newman are both very apt at running their offense extremely well. And Stoddard, the fullback, is a guy you got to stop. Obviously, anytime you face a team like this, stopping the fullback is critical. Defensively, odd structure. Everything we get will be earned. They're very well coached and disciplined in what they do defensively, and they're outstanding on special teams. So we got our work cut out for us. Senior Day. Excited for those guys and their contributions to the program. Military Appreciation Day, I know we'll have a good faction from Fort Jackson over here. We're looking forward to kicking off at Williams-Brice Stadium at 4 o'clock on Saturday. Thank you very much. And injury-wise, Jam's got a shoulder, and he will be questionable for the game. He did not practice today. I'll see if we don't get him back Wednesday or Thursday. Other than that, we should be good. And I appreciate it, and I open up for any questions.
Will, with what Wofford runs on offense, how frustrating is it to kind of have your defensive scheme and principles in place for 10 games, and you got to kind of throw that out the window and concentrate on this?
Well, we've spent time in training camp and during our open week, and at times, taking some shots here and there of a period or two of practice where we work on things like this because it is different. So we've spent time. So today was not a totally new day for our players as far as the installation was concerned. This is some things that we've tweaked within what we do, knowing we're going to play this game.
Coach, you kind of answered it a little bit, but when you try to schedule something like this with the practices and try to figure out your the different periods, do you spend more time on defense? And if that's the case, how important is it being able to still be efficient on offense if you're not focusing as much time on it this week?
Well, we don't really whether we're playing Wofford or another opponent. The times, the preparation and practice time as far as offense and defense do not change. We're doing a lot more separate this week as far as what we're, in preparation for the game. But there's definitely from a structure of the practice schedule, defensively you do change. You got to be able to go through some different periods and be able to see and get some of the looks that we'll see on Saturday.
Coach, on Saturday, this team could win its 8th game of the season. I know you're a guy that, once it's all said and done, you like to evaluate at the end of the season, but have you allowed yourself to really let that sink in? That hasn't happened too many times in the history of this program.
No.
Coach, a lot of coaches who facing an option team throw around the phrase assignment football. What does that mean to you kind of technically and sort of as a mindset, I guess?
Well, I think from a standpoint of whether you're a dive player, a quarterback to pitch player, an alley runner, or a pitch player in every defense, and back when I first started coaching, you assigned everyone had an option responsibility on every single play because you faced it so much. I've used to coach in the Gulf South Conference when I was at West Georgia and at Valdosta State, and we faced probably 5 to 6 teams a year that ran some form of double slot or veer option, triple option principles. So every defense we installed, that's what you taught, and you don't really do that as much anymore. The zone read would probably be as close as you could get to it from a reading a defender type of situation like you do in a triple situation. So that's what people mean when they're talking in terms of your assignment, your eye control. They create a lot of different motions and things that try to get your eyes in the wrong spots, and you've got to be very disciplined with your eye control, and that takes you to your responsibility. And there can't be any I thought he had the ball or I thought he pulled the ball. That's where you get in a lot of trouble because when they're able to make you defend inside out from a dive to a quarterback with a lead blocker to a pitch, and we have certain assignments and one guy doesn't do his job, the other guys are executing their responsibilities, and that's when you create a big play in the defense.
Will, senior day, are there any underclassmen who are going to be honored along with the seniors for, whether they're thinking about the future or they just want to do something else?
Yeah, I asked Hayden to go through senior day, and we're going to discuss that when the appropriate time when the season's over, but he'll go through it.
Will, speaking of Hayden, obviously you've known how talented he is, but just what is the thing that really stood out to you the first time you met him?
Work ethic, and I think that's probably, if you had to talk in terms of his, having a great work ethic is an ability. That's a talent, and it's something everyone's looking for. Whether you're in the field of football or you're in the business world or whatever, you want somebody that's got a tireless work ethic, and he's got a great competitive edge. And those would be the two things that jumped out at me.
What's the relationship between Kurt Roper and Jake Bentley like, and how has it developed as Jake's gotten more experienced?
Well, I would probably say because it's a single position, the quarterback coach / coordinator for us and the quarterback player has a very close relationship because of the amount of time you spend one-on-one with probably 3 other quarterbacks in the room as far as the game plan, the installation, the comfort level that a player has with what you are willing to take into a game plan. So obviously I think that's a very close relationship as far as those things are concerned. Kurt coaches the guys extremely hard, but also just like the rest of us off the field understands that they're college students and understands that part of it. But I think they have an outstanding relationship.
How does Jake do with the hard coaching? What's his response to that?
Very well. Jake's harder on himself than myself or Kurt Roper or anybody's going to be.
Well, you have a number of guys who were here 2 years ago when they lost to the Citadel, so they know firsthand what can happen when you go against that type of program. For the new guys, especially freshmen who have experienced success this year against some big name programs, how do you impress upon them what can happen if you don't take care of business against a team like Wofford? Well, we addressed that situation this morning, and I think that I leaned on a lot of the experience of our football team that went through that and understanding it starts with your preparation. That's the most important thing, is prepare the right way, and proper preparation prevents piss-poor performance in a lot of situations. So that's kind of where we start. That's all we can control right now is our preparation Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday leading to game day.
Will, you've talked about Hayden's contributions to the team, and everyone around here knows what he means to the program. How nice is it to see him get recognized on a national level with the Mackey semifinalist?
Well, he's well-deserved. I mean, he's a very valuable member of our football team, not just from a tight end position, but from a leadership standpoint. He's, I think, everything you want in a student-athlete for what he represents and what more of what he does for our team. He's a shield, on our punt team. He contributes in a lot of ways other than just playing really good tight end for us at South Carolina.
With the Citadel thing, did you kind of, before this week, think that you were going to bring that up, or did maybe the seniors kind of talk to you a little bit about it and that become more of a thing?
No, I brought it up.
Maybe a little premature to talk about this stuff, but you have assistant coaches who will probably be wanted by other coaches, programs, or whatever. Do you take any, early steps to help ensure that those guys will be back, or is it still a couple weeks away before you start getting into that type of stuff?
It's real premature.
Will, you mentioned your experience with the option back in your early coaching days, but with the option being less prevalent in high school football now than it used to be, do you find it's more difficult to coach your defensive guys up on facing an option team?
It's a great question. It's funny, on the field today, Sherrod Green at Rocky Mount High School in North Carolina faced the option about 6 times last year, and his reads were a lot quicker than some of our other guys. But being exposed to anything, it's like anything else. If you never see a 2-back power, and then all of a sudden you line up against someone, they're going to run the 2-back power, and you don't see that very often, it's not going to be is easy for you to grasp, maybe is something that you're used to seeing, and you get whatever the things defensively you're exposed to the most, and that's why coaching defense is very difficult, because a lot of times when you face something different offensively each week, different from offensively, you're running the same plays. You got to figure out how we're going to block 3 down, how we're going to block 4 down, how we're going to block bear. You know, we got to beat win versus man coverage and press coverage outside, and if they're going to be a zone team, I mean, there's obviously some adjustments. I'm not saying that's not hard, but it's sometimes a total different preparation week to week defensively. Certainly, there's not as many teams running option football anymore, whatever level that it may be on. But certainly, you could see the guys, you know, in our preparation for this ball game, whether it was in training camp or in our open week, to see guys that were a little bit more accustomed to playing it and understood a little bit more about the angles and the ball distribution and things.
Coach, what worked so well in the run game on Saturday, and how have you seen guys like A.J. Turner and Mon Denson develop throughout the year?
Well, I think we got the ball in the perimeter very well, whether it was the counter play and the power read outside. We got the ball in the perimeter, circled the defense, you know, extremely well in some situations. I thought we blocked on the perimeter extremely well. But again, I think I showed a clip today of a perimeter run where Zach Bailey's 30 yards downfield blocking a linebacker, and Shy Smith and Ortre Smith and Brian Edwards are all blocking downfield to create an explosive run for A.J. early in the game. But, you know, I think, again, I think we've continued to improve throughout the year in the run game. I think we had a really good game plan going into the game in our run game, things that we wanted to get to against a very good front.
Will, coming off a 3-interception performance by Jake, you said that he's harder on himself than anybody else is. Do you have to make sure that he doesn't dwell on it or overanalyze it?
No, he'll be fine. You know, I'm glad he's our quarterback, and, you know, he's a guy that's going to be very receptive to coaching and his own corrections as far as the things he needs to do to move forward. And, you know, I don't think that will linger on at all.
Javon Kinlaw seems like a different person. I mean, his confidence level seems to be very high. What could you see for him in terms of impact on the defensive line in the years to come if he continues to work and develop? Well, I think that nothing has shown me that he won't continue to work and develop. Here's a guy that showed up on campus with over 340 pounds. Kristen Coggins, our nutrition director, does a fantastic job. Completely bought into that side of it, and that takes time. And you got to change eating habits, when you eat, what you eat. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. And the young man has done everything we've asked him to do, whether it's in the weight room, whether it's in the film room, schematically, effort, nutrition. I mean, it's been a total change for him as far as the things we are asking him to do as opposed to what maybe he was used to. And, you know, him coming from fall camp, August 1st, to whenever we reported, to now has been, you know, a huge credit to him and his buy-in and his investment. I think Lance Thompson's done a fantastic job with him. And but a guy, you got to credit the player in a lot of situations for continuing to put himself in this position. And nothing, in my opinion, Phil, that would ever slow down his progression as far as his work ethic and his hunger to be a really good football player, because he's got that kind of mentality.
Will, I know you're focused on Saturday, of course, but your son playing in the state championship this weekend.
Yep.
I know that game's going to be at night for Jackson. Just didn't know your thoughts maybe on just that game, and is the family going to be heading out there?
No doubt. We're excited for Jackson and Hammond playing in the state championship game, and we're looking forward to I told him, I said, you won a state championship in lacrosse, and you get a chance to play for another one Saturday night, so that's pretty neat. But you know, Eric Kimmery and his staff do a fantastic job. They've got a really good team, and certainly pulling for the Skyhawks on Saturday to get it done. We need to win first, and then they need to get the W that Saturday night. But we'll be there. I hope you all don't ask too many questions after the game, and I can get out there earlier. So, what's that?
I said, did Dad win a state championship in high school?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Sure didn't.
Will, as a defensive player, how tough is it to anticipate and then overcome the cut blocks that come when you're facing a triple
Well, that's
option
something
team?
you got to be aware of. The biggest thing to me is playing the block. So many times you get your eyes focused on the ball carrier, and that's when you get ginsued. That's when you get cut, and that's what the big emphasis to me is. You got to play the block first, because if you're on the ground, we're playing with 10. And that's what you've got to be able to do. You got to stay on your feet, give ground if you have to, keep your back leg out of it. all the coaching points. But that, we work on cut blocks not just this week; it's every week. On the perimeter, teams, are going to cut you on the edges and things, and we put a huge emphasis on the backside of plays, especially starting back with NC State, first ball game of the year. They're a real team that would cut you out of the backside, and to stay on your feet on the inside and outside zone that they ran. So this is not a different week for us as far as the emphasis of the cut blocks.
Will, do you have a goal or a percentage on kickoffs as far as the number that you want to be touchbacks, and how has Parker White done with that this year?
100%.
100?
Yeah.
So how's Parker done as far as that?
The last game he was great. Not one of them came out. But, no, I mean, he's been very valuable as far as that's concerned. You kick to some of the people in our league. You're kicking to the best athlete in a lot of situations on the other team. And that's not a good thing to do, especially when you're covering 60 yards down the field and you're creating a space play with a really good athlete. So that's hard. But to be able to have the weapon for a guy that can kick it out of the end zone certainly helps your football team.
With trying to face option football, with kind of matching the assignment stuff, how tricky is that with how an option team can, if they can figure out whose assignment is what, kind of isolating guys, and also how much of a challenge is it going up against a coach like Coach Ayers, who's probably seen every single option defense game plan imaginable?
Well, he and Wade are not going to see anything new Saturday. I can assure you of that. And that's a huge part of what they do, is identifying what you're doing. And that's where they can get you in some trouble, because at the end of the day, you really don't want a vast playlist, call list versus a team like this, because it takes one mess up and the ball's out the gate. But once they identify and zero in on exactly what you're doing, they're going to have answers. You know that going into the game. So you got to have enough change-ups in the game to help you as far as those things are concerned without slowing down your players and creating a mistake on defense. So that's an interesting balance.
You hear a lot of defensive coaches complain about the cut block and the ethics, I guess, of the cut block. Where do you stand on that topic?
Well, we talk about player safety a lot, don't we? I see cut blocks creating some issues for player safety. So that's where I stand on it.
Where's the line between, in the way the block is executed, between I don't like that and that's dirty / illegal?
Well, I think it's a very thin line, and I think it's a hard line, because at the end of the day, it's a competitive game, and you're competing hard, and you're going to throw on a guy whether he recognizes you or not. You're a linebacker coming inside out of a play, and you don't see the cut block coming, and you can't identify it, and it's a total legally blocked based on the rule, and you got a problem. You got a guy with a knee injury. I mean, that happens a lot, and that's just part of it. If we were truly about player safety, we'd eliminate it, in my opinion. That's what I would say, but I don't know that'll happen.
It's got to come from the front.
Well, it comes from, it's like you would picture a clock, from the front to the clock of how you would look at it, from a V-shaped to where they can see it, based on where they're coming from the front formation. They can't come from outside in. They've got to come from within the formation of the tackle box. So now you see them putting their slots inside. So now they can cut.
Well, with the emphasis that you put on improving defense from the end of last year to now, how satisfied, gratified are you with the effort that these guys have put in to do what they're doing right now?
Well, we still got a lot of football to play, and so we'll reflect when the year's over as far as their work ethic and as far as how they've gone about trying to improve and get better. I've been very pleased with how they've worked.
Well, of course, you talk a lot about Wofford's offense. What do you see from them defensively?
Well, you better earn it. That's the bottom line. And Coach Wood does an outstanding job. They're an odd structure, which obviously starts with some issues there of identifying who the hot rusher is, who's the fourth rusher. They're really good zone as far as their eyes are concerned and getting in the right spots and the spacing of their coverages. But they're going to make you earn it at the end of the day. They're going to make you earn everything you get, and that's usually a sign of a pretty good defense.
If memory serves, last year the juniors who were graduating didn't walk. What kind of makes Hayden special in that regard? Is it his contributions to the program or something that he's done?
No, just something that came from me.
Just how much different is this Wofford offense, what they do and what they can do when they're going out of shotgun versus the double slot under center stuff?
Well, again, I think it's they can create any sort of triple read from a gun or underneath center, so there's a lot of similarities. I think they get the ball in the perimeter well from the gun as under center, so I think there's a lot of carryover in what they do and how they do it. All right, thank you. Have a great day.